Hello everyone, welcome back to Blender. This is Yanni Plays, and today in our, I think it's already episode 4, we are going to finally do a simple animation. So at the end of this tutorial you should be able to do a simple animation like this one here. So as you can see, my character is holding an item and we are doing some different movements. But in this one here we are not going to do any walk or run cycles. That is something that we are going to do in our next episode, because that takes a little bit more time and in my opinion is one of the harder things to do. But first of all, let's go ahead and add a item. And as always, the items are going to spawn where we place the cursor, and to get an item we go into MC Prep into the items. Now I had to reload the assets, and now we can scroll through all those items here. Now if you just want to search for something, you click on triangle here and then the search field is opening up, and now you can see all of the different signs here. Now as soon as the item is placed, you are going to see this little menu down here where you actually could go and resize everything. So you can change the size here, you also could change the thickness here. But of course, if you didn't open this one up, if you click away, then it is gone. But you can just click on it, go on S, and you can scale it again. So now if you're going over into the materials tab, you can see that we have our birch sign texture applied. So what we're going to do is exactly the same as we did with the skin. We are going to edit this texture so that we are putting the text in that we would like. So we're opening our new window, we are going into the image editor, and then we are going to browse and find the birch sign PNG. So let's go ahead and change it up so that we are going to have different text. And once we edited and saved the texture, let's go ahead and apply this new texture to this sign here. So we select the sign, we go into the material tab, we delete the material, we create a new one, and then in base color we click on a little circle, add an image texture, open, and we find the texture where we saved it. And now this sign is ready to add our custom text. So for that we do Shift A and we add a text. And I'm not going through all the details here because we looked at that in our last video. So the only thing that I'm going to point out here is how do we change the font so that we can have the Minecraft font. So for that we selected in object mode, we go into the text here, and then down at the font we go into the regular font, click on open, and then we are going to import the font that we just downloaded, and I'm going to put the link into the description. So you can see I have the Minecraft regular open font, and that looks more like Minecraft. Now we just have to make sure that we put it on top of our sign. And then in our settings over here, we can extrude it a little bit. Then we hop over into the material properties. And here I'm just going with a simple color, going with black so that this pops out. Then I'm clicking onto the text, right click and do convert to mesh. Then I click on the sign, I right click and convert that to a mesh as well. Next, we're going back on a text, shift click onto the sign, and then we join those two together. And now if I select that, you can see the text stays on. So let's go ahead and put the sign into my character's hand. And when our sign is in position, we select the sign and then we shift click on our character. And we have to make sure that we select the whole character. So you can see I shift clicked on here on the arm, and now just the arm is selected. But if I shift clicked on one of the bones here, then everything is selected. So that's what we have to do. And then we can go over into the pose mode and we select this bone here. Just left click on it. and then we do Control P, and then we select bone. So now if we move this one here, you can see the sign is moving with it. So now we actually can get started with our animations. For that, let's move our timeline up a little bit so we can see a little bit more. Now, as you can see right now, it is set to 250 frames, but I would like to bring that down to 150. And now you can see that the back part here is blacked out. If I hit on play, you can see it is running through those frames here, and then it is restarting at the beginning again. Now, if you remember from one of our earlier tutorials, we set our render engine to 30 frames per second. So that means here we are at 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, 4 second, and 5 seconds. So we are going to create a 5-second long short clip. Now, the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to set our start frame. So for that, we are going to bring our cursor on to the 0, and then we select how everything is going to look like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this arm here, click on rotate, and then I would like this arm to be rotated up, about like that. And now I can click I on my keyboard and I do location rotation scale. So now I have my very first keyframe for this bone here. But I'm also going to move this bone over here. So I select that and bring the sign up so that it is next to my head. And again, I press I, location, rotation, scale. Now you also can turn on the auto keyframe down here. And that just means that if I'm going to select the bone and I'm doing something, now you can see automatically a keyframe is being inserted. So that is just going to make everything a little bit faster. Also, if you prefer, you can open up a second viewport and you can look at it from the side so that when you work on the front, you see exactly what all is happening. And don't forget to do little things like the fingers. And of course, also all the changes on your face. You pretty much do the same, you move it and it adds your keyframe. And then we are just going to the next section. And for me, I'm going to 30, so I'm going 1 second later. And at this time, I would like to bring the sign up a little bit more. I'm selecting this bone here. And I just make small little movements on the rest of my face. Also, a lot of the details like blinking eyes we are going to add later on, or finger movement. Once everything looks good, we are going over to our next keyframe. And just like that, we are going through our whole scene. And then we are setting our last one. And maybe you want to do something like blinking of the eyes. So I'm just going here, for example, to frame 100. And then I am going to shift select all three of those. I press I, location, rotation, scale. And I'm going over here, select those three. I, location, rotation, scale. And now I'm going up maybe just like 10 frames. And with those three still selected, I do G and I can close the lid until it's almost closed. And now you see the next keyframe is added. Going over here, select those three. Do the same. Again, also this keyframe is added. And now, a little bit later at 120, we are going to open the eyes again. We move them back into their starting position. And of course, the same over here. So now we have some blinking eyes. So let's zoom out a little bit and see what we have so far. So if I hit spacebar, you can see our character is going through the animation. And now our eyes are blinking. So you're just looking at it. Does it look natural? Do you want to change something? Do we have movement? Do we have anything that is just looking like it's frozen in place? But I think so far that looks pretty good. We're waving the sign around and the hands and the fingers are moving. We just have small little bit movement in the legs. So I think I like that. Now, if you don't like something, then you just select the body part that you don't like and you select the keyframe and you hit delete, and then it is deleting this keyframe, or you just go over it and you record what you would like. So now that all of that is done, let's go ahead and add our light. And I'm actually just going with an area light. And then we can switch over to our rendered viewport. And you can see light looks good. So now all we have to do is we have to set up our camera. And once our camera is set up, we are ready to go and set up the render details. So for that, we are going over here into the output properties. And a lot of the things here we already set up in an earlier tutorial. So you have your resolution here. And then in the next section, we have what frame do we start rendering, what frame do we end rendering. And that should be automatically set up when you changed it down here. And since we added keyframes, it is now going to render 150 pictures. Step just means that it's going to render every single frame, and that's what we want, and our frame rate is set to 30. Now down in the output sections, you can click on the file format and say what format you would like to have it exported. So a lot of editing softwares, you actually can do the PNG, and then it is automatically stitching it together. And if you have an editing software that can do that, then I recommend doing PNG, because since it is rendering every single frame, it's going to render 150 pictures, and that is in a just 5-second long video. So now just imagine you would have a simple 5-minute long video, how many frames you would have there. And if for some reason your computer would crash in the middle of the rendering, if you have PNG, then you know, okay, the last frame that I rendered was frame 2325. So that means that you can just set up and say, hey, in my second render, we just start rendering later, so you don't have to render everything again. Or also, if you have multiple computers or multiple people that can help you render that, then you can say, hey, I render everything from frame 0 to 2000, you do 2000 to 4000, and somebody else is doing 4000 to 6000. But since this one here is just a shorter render, I am just going to select the FFmpeg. So it's going to be rendered as a video. And if you select FFmpeg, it is going to open up the encoding section underneath. I recommend to just go with the MP4. So you click on that, and now it is going to output as a FFmpeg in MP4 encoding. In the next section here, I recommend to just leave everything on the settings they are, so don't change the codec or encoding speed or keyframe interval. The only thing that you should change is the output quality. So here, if it is a final render, I would just go with lossless or maybe the perceptual lossless. If you need to have it a little bit faster and you don't worry that much about the quality, you can go into high quality as well. And now everything is set up. We have our light, we have our animation, we have our output set up properly. So we can go into the top left corner, we can click on render, and then we go into render animation. And now our animation is starting to render. And then it is just going to open up a new window and it is starting to render. As you can see, currently we're on frame 0. And each frame is probably going to take a few minutes. So at the end, this render here is going to be a multiple hour project. So I just recommend to render something overnight. And that is where we are going to finish this video here. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, give me a like. And if you want to see how do we get this one here walking and running, then check in next week when the next video is coming out. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.